Welcome to Fresh Music Freaks Radio, your online source for upfront music and industry news, music festival, and in-depth interviews. I'm a freak. Are you?
Hey, freaks. It's absolutely a pleasure to be back with you this week. We have an absolutely amazing and very special guest, somebody that I have followed in a very, very long time, basically since he started his career. It is my absolute esteemed pleasure to introduce OPIUO to all of you. I will just briefly run you through a little bit of the stuff that has happened in his career. The man is based out of Melbourne, Australia. He's been doing this since about 2009. He is an innovator when it comes to Funkadelic-based style music that he puts out. It's really kind of hard to describe his sound, but if you have followed, you'll know that everything from Physical Symptoms to Slurp and Giggle to Meraki, to Omniversal in 2016, he was really in a place that was setting the mark for stuff to make you shake your ass. So, without further ado, I just want to say, OPIUO, how are you doing?
I'm doing amazing. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Like I told you just before we started the recording, a little bit nervous, but most definitely I've been chasing this interview for a while, so which I'm actually kind of glad about because a lot of stuff has happened over this last year. I was supposed to sit down with you in January when you came through Eugene, and we weren't able to get that done, but here we are now, and I think it's a really beautiful time because we can talk about some of the things that you have coming up that are a little bit personal, but also a little bit music-based. So let me throw it to you. What are some of the things that you have going on right now that you're really super excited about?
Well, literally today, me and my partner Naji are 3 days away from being due for our baby together.
Yes.
So my world at the moment is basically hanging at home, not touring for the next couple of months, making some music in between, working on a mountain bike track, and just hanging with her and being there. So my life at the moment, it's really amazing. It's a really awesome, interesting time. I love it.
Well, let me extend to you an absolutely amazing congratulations. We did see the post on Instagram back at the beginning of August. What a great picture that is of you with your head against the belly.
Totally.
So that's absolutely amazing, man. This is your first time father, yeah?
Yeah. Yep. I am the father, in essence, to her stepdaughter, her daughter as well.
Very cool.
Yeah, this is my first child in the other sense, which is awesome. Yeah, feels like the right time.
So, like, it's not going to become like OPIUO's not touring anymore because he's got a kid and you're going to become like this hermit that like ghost produces for people so that you could be a dad.
No, I mean, I want to be the best dad ever, but I think part of being the best dad ever is still being me. And, you know, I'm really lucky that I have the support to do what I do, and this is this time of my life to do it. And I want to show, in the most perfect sense, the little, you know, new human that you got to continue to be you and follow what you love to do and go out there and get it. So I think a good balance. I'll find that balance. I have no idea what it is yet. Touring and music makes me who I am, so that's something I have to continue to have as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, from what I understand, just kind of segueing, you have another birth that's going to be coming up here soon, right? You just finished up your Syzygy, your second Syzygy album. So talk to me just a little bit about how this moved, or the progression from Syzygy 02 from Syzygy 01.
I guess, well, Syzygy 01, I started writing right after I'd finished Omniversal. So before it had even come out, I was beginning that process. And actually some of the ideas on Syzygy 02 were started back then as well. So it's coming up to, a few years ago. But this music, there's a second Syzygy. I really just, I wanted to make some stuff that was like things that I loved playing out a lot more too. And had influences of a lot of the festivals I was playing at and going to, and moments I was having myself on the dance floor. And some of it is much more song-based, and some of it is much less song-based in the sense it's just put it on and go on the journey,
right,
of being on a dance floor or whatever. But to me, I guess, whenever I'm writing anything at any time, I don't really try to put too much emphasis on what it is at any moment, because I think that will end up catching me and kind of creating too much of what am I trying to say right now. Because most of the time I'm not really trying to say too much, except for let's live this life and let's do the thing we do and let's have a good time and be good people and everything like that. So I think when writing it, I was just really enjoying the freedom to write music again, after having put out other music, and I was making it for the dance floors I was playing, and then some of the time I was making it for the moments to listen to it at home. So, it's a little bit longer than the 01, so I guess it's heading towards more of an album length, kind of in that mid-ground, because I just had a lot more music to stick on it, so I just didn't want to, leave anything out, and really just understand what's happening right now. Yeah.
So let's talk about that real quick, because with Syzygy 01, back in 2018, everybody that is listening is probably going to be familiar with your performance at Red Rocks, where you did the Syzygy Orchestra. You worked with Tom Hagerman on that and kind of brought that together. In your mind, do you have that happening again with Syzygy 02? Are you going to do the orchestra show again? Or was that a one-time, beautiful, just leave it as it is, let's not try to recapture?
Yeah, even though you said that, are you going to do that again? It kind of never really excites me as much as doing anything for the first time. Because I feel like when you do something like that, I had no idea whether it was going to work until we were doing it. So it's almost like this weird edge that you're living on all the time, which kind of sustains and fulfills that excitement, and the people that are there too. So doing it again, it's like, oh, he's doing that thing again in this form, in the same form, similar music potentially. It sort of lends itself to being like, oh, the other one was better, or oh, this one's better, or there's kind of a marker point. Whereas I feel like I always want to do something that grand, I want to do it different the next time. Different music, different setup. I can honestly tell you right now, I have no idea when I'm going to do it again, and in whatever form. I'm constantly trying to think of ideas to outdo myself, and then they normally get thrown into a big pool, and I figure out what's actually possible for that moment, and then go with it. So, yeah, I don't really know. And that's it. I mean, I do want to build something that I've never done before around some of this new music too. So, yes, something grand will come, but I don't know when or how.
Right. I do want to talk about the whole the orchestra phenomenon that we're finding in electronic dance music a little bit here and there. It's not anything new. And when I chart back to thinking of a lot of maybe Paul Van Dyke performing with an orchestra in a big trance in the big trance world. or if we're coming closer to your style of music, well, you can't really get close to your style of music, but like Nero in 2011 when he played with the orchestra, and then going back and like, I don't want to compare, but just like the difference is for me, as a listener when it came to listening to the Syzygy Orchestra, is that the orchestra played your music. It wasn't like they were accenting your beats. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like it was just beautiful.
That was a really big part of it. Yeah, that was a big part of it for me. Was when it was a really interesting process too. Like meeting Tom and having that fall into place. I give a lot of the success for it being what it was in terms of the musicality was down to his ability to understand what I was talking about and what I was, sketching out, and his ability to really take that to another level as well, because that was something I was like, I don't want them playing over top of everything. I want to be removing a lot of the content and really have the orchestra using their tones and everything to remake that. So we had to think a lot about what instruments, and then really dive into how they would interact and how they would, what tones I would need to leave in the, backing song, and then what things I'd be doing on top. And that was probably most of the process. And then it came down to a couple of months of really writing the notation. Right. But yeah, that was, for me, was something I really wanted to do. I didn't want to just have, I didn't want to have anything I'd heard before, and I didn't actually go and listen to too many different examples because I kind of didn't want to be too influenced. I just wanted to go by a way, and that's why building the Syzygy Orchestra, I didn't want it to be a symphony or anything that was, kind of laid out. Also, they're way too expensive. There's so many people, right. But yeah, part of it was just like I wanted to be able to choose exactly how many of each instrument, and because we were going in and pulling out, all the synth lines and whatever, and how could we better represent that again?
It would be like you went in and you opened up your repertoire and you literally like muted channels, and then an instrument played that channel.
Yeah, well, that was,
in layman's terms.
Yeah. I spent probably a month just thinking about the songs I was going to play. I had a whiteboard in the corner of the room, and I just had these little Post-it notes, and I had them in a different order and all these different songs that I kind of wanted to play. And then I would go in and I'd just move them around and kind of sit on it for a day or something, and then I'd sort of put them together, and it was really, I wanted to make sure that all the elements that I loved about a song could potentially be replicated in some form by the orchestra. Even down to like the last minute, I think we changed from a double bass to a tuba. And it was like, just because it was like, oh no, we're not quite getting the right tone out of that moment.
Right.
Depth. So it was, it was really about overthinking it and thinking about it a lot, but then also being able to stand back and being like, well, what are we actually listening to? Yeah, we're getting a wall of sound, but why? And what's actually going on? I didn't want people to be able to pick straight away the difference between the original sound and what they're doing.
That's awesome. So if we're jumping ahead just a little bit, and we're bringing it back into 2019, I'm going to take something that you just said, which is that you didn't want to be kind of influenced / pigeonholed to anything else that anybody else was doing. Pull that into 2019 with that same mentality, okay? And this album, was it just the Syzygy O2? Was it just you that influenced yourself?
Well, I can never possibly ever say that, because I think everything that goes on in my life, whether I notice it or not, is influencing me. From a conversation to a just sound that I hear, I would always say I'm constantly being influenced by everything. And there's always a bunch of people musically that will influence every release at any time, and they come and go, and it's really hard sometimes to remember what I was listening to at the time of writing certain things. But there's definitely a techno element going on in some of the songs, and then there's some more, I guess, rocky, big leady stuff, and then there's some more hip-hoppy stuff, kind of feel and tempo, and it kind of, it's it literally came down to what I was really enjoying making at the time. And that's something, for better or worse, that I've always kind of done. I've just shut myself into a room and gone for it, and really tried not too hard to think about what's going on in music right now, what are people doing, because that's what they're doing. And somehow I've found the confidence just to do what I do. And you know, more and more it seems to be something that people really enjoy, which I'm super thankful for, because I could just really enjoy what I do and no one else enjoy it, you know. And so it's something that I never take for granted, for sure, you know. And I think that's really, people ask me a lot, like, how should I do it? What should I do? And I really do try and say, like, find the thing that really makes you happy when you're making music and makes you really enjoy it. And it doesn't really matter at the end of the day whether the success comes straight away or now or never or whatever. Like, it will come and it will go again. And in that moment, have you really enjoyed what you've done? Because it really, you know, everyone needs to survive. We need to get by. There's all that stuff that goes with it. But truly, at the end of the day, have you really enjoyed what you've done? You know, and it's a huge part of it. Massive.
So, do you make music for yourself and hopes that the fans will like it, or do you make music for the fans, or is it a mixture of both?
It's a mix for sure, yeah. Because when I'm in a room and I'm like, wow, that sounds cool, and I'll go deep into it and I'll get right in there and I'm like, fucking wow, you know, and things are bending around and whoa, and then I'll sit back and I'll be like, imagining it if I was on the dance floor, and that's, I guess, then channeling the people that are my fans and people that I, you know, have associated with, and the places I've played and the people I've seen on the dance floor, and so then there's an element of like, will this work? And it has to really work for myself, but then I really do think about, you know, the places and the people I am playing for, because that is hugely influential in what I do as well.
Absolutely. Just jumping off of that a little bit, obviously crowds are different from country to country, city to city. I'm not going to ask you the question of where you like playing the most, but I will ask you, do you like a little bit more of an intimate setting, or do you like the festival, or is it like depending on your mood, or?
Yeah, I would say they both bring something very different. You know, a giant festival with tens of thousands of people, you know, has in the entire area. Then there's this element of like, will they come see me play? And if a shitload of people show up and there's a crazy energy at that one moment, that can't really be replicated again exactly at that moment, because you had to get them there, or they turned up by mistake or whatever. And then there's this sudden moment, and then it kind of dissipates again into this massive amalgamation of people that are doing whatever they're doing. So there's this really special thing about that. That's what I love about festivals. And you can sometimes play to people that have never heard you, and there's this kind of spontaneity for their, you know, first time and all these kind of crazy things. And then there's this element where you play a venue that potentially you've chosen for whatever reason, its sound, its look, its feel, and you get to do and represent yourself in the perfect way at that moment. And people who are there want to be there. And there's something else completely incredible about that. So I will never pick either. I've probably had the most rewarding in both. Yeah, they're quite, I mean, without each other, it's, you know, they need each other, I think, as well.
Absolutely. So coming off the festival circuit this summer, you 2 Fridays ago, you released Kaleidoscope.
Mm-hmm.
Kaleidoscope tell me that it's going to be the first track on your new album.
I will confirm that.
Well, what I mean by that is like, so Kaleidoscope dropped August 9th for all of you that are listening, and if you're not super familiar with OPIUO sound, he likes to do these pretty beautiful intros, and Kaleidoscope comes in, and as I'm listening to this, I'm like, I just want you to know that I actually heard a snippet of this song back in July. Excuse me, I think I heard it back in June. I may have heard it back in June, because I was kind of like, I hope that this is the song that he opens with at Paradiso, right? I was like, I hope this is what it is.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
to me, Kaleidoscope is like the new festival OPIUO opener, right? Like, it's a massive track, but it takes a minute to get there.
I did. I played it for a while. It was like it was something that I was working on at the time before it was finished. It became this thing that I opened a lot of shows with when I was making it, because I really had to figure out how to make it work, you know, and had to see what was happening. And so I got totally in love with starting with it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely amazing track, and so it's just a glimpse of what's going to be going on Syzygy 2, so really super stoked on that. So you're home now, you're taking your break, waiting for the little bundle of joy. You got your album that's going to be coming out, but you're also going to be, so I should say, let's back it up. You did two sections of two legs of your own tour towards the end of last year and a little bit more towards the middle of this year or spring of this year. And that brings us to now, which at the end of October, you're going on tour with Grammatic.
It's funny. We met each other, I don't want to say the year because I might get it wrong, but it would have been around sort of 2012 maybe time, and when he was living he still lives in New York, I believe, but he was living at a place maybe in Brooklyn at the time, and I came by and we just hung out and we got along great. Awesome sense of humor and just had a lot of fun and took a lot of shit, and it was awesome. And so from then we've kind of been wanting to do things, but it's just never aligned. And then, this arose and it worked out perfectly because it was sort of a similar time that, you know, I liked the tour in North America and we, you know, it just was like, let's do it. Let's go on the road together. And yeah, it's, I don't know, it's someone I've really enjoyed their music for a long time. And so that side of it's an absolute pleasure as well. To be able to go on the road and, you know, music you love, which is great.
How many of those dates is the little one gonna? Is it you gonna put the little one on a plane and bring?
It's funny to me, like, you know, a lot of the time I'm, you know, people are like, oh, we just finished tour, how was it? And in my mind I'm like, man, I'm kind of got dates lined up for the next, you know, 6-8 months minimum.
Right.
So it's kind of like this, you know, this is the first sort of gap I've had in a long time, and for the most amazing reason ever. So, you know, we start that tour, and I think we start a couple of shows in Australia first, some festivals, and then do that and some New Year's stuff in New Zealand, and Australia continues, and there's just kind of this continual thing. But the cool thing about going on the road with people and doing, you know, playing support for someone and doing that side of things is you really get to see another side to the same kind of world that you may have done before, because they have their peeps that show up, and there's this really cool exploration of, you know, new people and the potential to play for new people too, which is always really exciting.
Absolutely. Do you ever, I shouldn't say do you ever, because I know that you probably do, but on a tour like this, or, you know, before you play at a festival, do you walk the crowds? Do you get out? Do you get an opportunity to see, you know, someone like Grammatic from the other side of the rail?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, on the bus tours, there's a lot less time post-show. So, like, normally it's, you know, if you're playing before someone, you finish, you'll have that hour and a half or so that they're playing, and you get to watch their show, and then as soon as that's done, the crew packs everything down, you get in the bus and you go. So, yeah, I always try and catch whoever I'm with playing. I feel like also before I play as well, I really like to get a moment to try and see, you know, what's going on and who's around and meet people. I mean, I love meeting people too. So yeah, just, you know, as much as I can, take in as much as I can, for sure.
That's good. So let's shift gears here just a little bit, because I have some questions that are a little bit deep to me, and where I'm at with music and how it connects with me. You know, obviously music is, I don't want to say number one, but the next biggest thing in your life, when it comes to the birth of with your child and your relationship and stuff like that. Obviously your music is what supports you and it will support your family, but like, what is it, like, how do you translate music outside of that aspect, outside of support? Like, what has it done for you in your life? Maybe more on the like psychological and mental side of things, because this life can be very taxing. Mental illness can run amok with producers and stuff, but how has music really, like, I guess, solidified itself in your life without it being your support system? Does that make sense? Do you understand kind of what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, totally. I guess for me, I've been around music all my life. My parents just enjoyed music. It was playing. They weren't necessarily overly musical. My mum would play the piano, but they were just enjoyers of parties too, you know, and I was around culture of just healthy parties, like good friends and people coming over and parties in this barn we had, and then it turned into them allowing some festivals to be thrown on our land. And so I was around music festivals from a very young age. What they were at the time, though, some of them were very early electronic music in New Zealand, where I grew up, and kind of evolved around that. But music was always a part of not just listening to something, but it was associated to friends and community and socializing and these kind of environments were awesome for adults and kids, you know, and just enjoying life. So that's kind of real in terms of what it was, and it still is, you know. But like you say, now it's my, I guess, job in some weird sense, which when I was doing music when I was younger, I just loved it. But I always felt like I was going to be like a graphic designer, or I was going to do these other kind of sides of things that I still enjoyed creating just as much. And so the pressure of music being my job or the thing that I would do wasn't massive on me, but of course I would love to and I dream about it, but I didn't have that pressure. So as everything would happen and progress, it's just been a really enjoyable, you know, sometimes obviously it gets stressful when you have all the moments of making things work, but it's been such an enjoyable progress because I just love it. And if I get the opportunity to do it, I will, but I'm less let down in the sense that the pressure to be successful because of music is less there than the sense of enjoying what I do, surviving, supporting my family, doing all that, but really just appreciating it, you know, because of the community that it has provided in my life and around the world. I'm talking to you now on the other side of the world, you know, we've had an impact on each other's lives because of it. I don't know, I think it should be something like that instead of this track, that track, this track. It's kind of, for me, it's about the general sense of music. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. I tell people all the time that music is the universal language. And it's, to me, the connection that I have to music, believe it or not, started with my brother, a little bit later in my life. And watching him grow and build himself as, an international DJ for a time, and, you know, just watching him tour and take those types of things on, like, you know, it was amazing. But the music held him together, but it also started to mess with his mind a little bit. And so, you know,
it's actually a really, sorry, I have to interrupt you. It's a really a fine balance, that mind reality, whatever it is for everyone, because I don't think it's made any easier today by social media either.
Right.
It's a really tough line that you have to just somehow find that peace and solace in what you're doing, and that's sometimes the most difficult thing to do when there's so much amazing things being done by so many people that all you can do is get some sort of comparing yourself to them or feeling jealous or envious or all these kind of things. And you just have to tell yourself that, they are in the exact same position you are, and they've just managed to do what they've done, and whether you love it or not, we're all exactly the same, we just want to do these amazing things that make us feel good and make others feel good, and whatever the reason is that you do it. Everyone's very different, but it's so hard to separate yourself sometimes. But I think just having a good life around what you do as your music thing is really important too, because if every person you know and every day that you do anything is only solely dedicated to this one thing, then if anything happens for yourself within that one thing, people don't show up to a show or anything that, that can really impact you, then it affects your entire life. So it's really important to have, really good friends and good family, and just try, and not everyone has that, and that's something that, never should be taken for granted either. So just really to try and find the balance of that. And then sometimes, some of my closest friends have come from, a lot of them actually, have come from music. But now we have such an awesome life inside and outside of music too, which is super important, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I have had an absolute blast talking to you, and I know that you told me that you would give me a little bit of your time, and so I appreciate that. Before we kind of wrap things up here, though, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Like when you too, man. I like the questions, and it makes me think. I just have to say, really, when you talk to someone and they ask you things that you often don't think about yourself because you just live in your life and you do your day to day, it's really nice to be reminded of these things. So I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate that. Like I said, you've had a huge impact on my life. I know that you've had a huge impact on lots of people's lives out there. And I think they're going to be really stoked to listen to this. As we kind of wrap up here, I do want to mention a couple of things that you have coming up in 2020. Obviously, big announcement for Rainbow Serpent, which happens in January. If people don't know about Rainbow Serpent, it is a mainstay, beautiful, conscious festival in Australia. So you have announced that. You have the Earth Frequency Festival, which is going to be absolutely amazing. All the reviews and everything that I've read about it makes me want to step into that world. And then obviously Deja Vu, Bass Nectar Festival down there in Mexico. So how excited are you for these?
Very. I mean, it's weird, just going back to the question about how do you think about, playing, do you like people or yourself? I'm playing music at the moment, already thinking about these festivals. So there's a prime example of how it works. So when I sit in the studio, it's like, okay, cool, I want to make something kind of for this kind of festival, and that's where it begins. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask, I don't know if you can say whether or not, but I just got an announcement for Envision. Is there any possibility that you're going to be in Costa Rica? Are you allowed to say? Are you not going?
I've not heard anything about me being there. That's all I'll say. So if something happens after I talk to you right now, I have no idea about. But honestly, I don't think I will be there this year.
Well, I'm going to send Graham
an amazing time.
I'm going to send Graham a message and be like, yo, you better have OPIUO on that lineup with Closey. So is there anything that you'd like to say to your fans after just before we wrap everything up here?
Yeah, well, thank you, and keep being you, and look after each other, and live this small, tiny, crazy existence we have on this flying rock to the absolute maximum, and be kind to yourself too.
Absolutely. Syzygy O2 is coming out. Do you have a release date for it?
We do, but I don't think we're allowed to say yet.
All right. So
I haven't been told that it's been announced. So yes, we do, of course.
Right.
There's music on it. Some of it's loud, and it's going to be fun.
Good stuff, man. Well, listen, I'm really super excited to see you in Portland in November, and so I'm going to hold out. One of the things that I like to do, believe it or not, is I like for about 3 weeks before you come and play, I don't listen to your music. I'm sorry, I'm not giving you those Spotify streams. I'm not. It's not happening. But I don't listen to your music because I really want to be in that moment when you play. And you know me,
it's actually a perfect moment as well because I'm at home for so long. I'm going to have so much new music for that. Like everyone always says, new music, but this is really a time when I'm going to have the chance to do it. And all the stuff from this next release, I'm reworking and making it into the most amazing thing I can. So this is the kind of time I get really excited about getting back on the road too.
Good stuff, man. Well, listen, it's an absolute pleasure. I am going to just wrap things up here and say, what an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for everything. And we'll talk to you again really soon, yeah?
Yeah. Take care. Rock and roll.